All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. College football starts up back again tomorrow night. Brian Howell is with us. He covers the Colorado Buffaloes. They play tomorrow night. He's a beat writer for Buff Zone and also the Boulder Daily Camera. Brian, thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate you spending some time. It's going to be a busy night for you tomorrow.
Yeah, yes, it will be. I'm looking forward to it, though. It's just, as I tell people, after 9 months or whatever of talking about the next season, I'm just glad it's here.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that, especially when you're covering one team every day, like you are the Buffaloes,
Yeah.
speaking of which, look, it's North Dakota State tomorrow night. Most anticipate, Colorado winning. I don't know by how many points. I mean, that's probably a subject for another day, but I think they'll probably win the game. But I got to tell you, this team was the story of college football for the first month of the season. It was all Colorado, all Deion Sanders, all Shadour Sanders, all the time. And then after starting off 4-2, the wheels absolutely fell off. Although there were some close games. I mean, this shouldn't have really been 0-6. If you just talk about some regression to the mean, maybe it's 2-4 or 1-5, a bad bounce here and there, a bad play on defense. But I guess that is the narrative. Is that fair? The slow finish has to be corrected going into this season?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I agree with you. It's, it probably shouldn't have been 0-6. That they were closer than that. And I honestly, I know we want to focus more on this year, but I honestly think if they don't cough up that Stanford game when they're up 29-0 and lose the game, that would have put them at 5-2. I think they absolutely would have won at least another one and been in a bowl game. So I think they never recovered from that one. Not fully. I mean, they were still in games, like you said, but I think that one hung over them for a while. So yeah, I mean, they've got to prove that they can get on the winning track and not be 4-8, 5-7 again.
Yeah, and look, that's what everyone is, certainly looking at. Let's kind of move this over to Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, who is arguably the most popular figure right now going in college football. I mean, maybe we could have made the case Brian was like, Nick Saban or somebody else, but it's not. Like, everything he says and everything he does always is making headlines. And, I think it's absolutely great for the sport. I mean, I love it. I love the fact that we're talking about a former player, a Hall of Famer that's coaching college football, but this is a results-based business. I think he understands that too. The results just are going to have to be better.
Yeah, and he fully acknowledges that, and he says he's the first to say that. The results have got to be better. He knows that, and he's also the first one to say, look, if you're going to talk, you better back it up, and you're going to deal with the backlash if you don't. He knows that. I mean, this is a guy that we know has been one of the brashest and most confident athletes we've probably ever seen. At least for me, I put him right up at the top, and I'm sure for you too. But he always backed it up as a player, or 90% of the time or whatever it is. But as a coach, he backed it up at Jackson State, and now he's got to back it up at Colorado, and he knows that.
Yeah, and Shadour Sanders, he is 40-1 to win the Heisman. He threw 27 touchdown passes last year. He was not the problem. It was the defense for most of the season.
Yeah.
Do you think those numbers pretty much are repeatable this year? Better, worse, about the same? What do you think?
They should be better, and those are pretty good numbers. I mean, those passing yards was a school record. His completion percentage was a school record. Touchdowns was one off the school record. So, and that's with missing the last game and a half with injury. So, I think the offensive line was not very good last year. If they're better on the offensive line and can run the ball a little bit, then those numbers should be a lot better. I've always said if he gets good protection, he can be in New York for the Heisman ceremony. And, I absolutely think that that's a ceiling for him and something he can shoot for.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, he's right on the cusp of that in terms of the odds. Now, as far as the deepest group that Colorado has, probably at wide receiver, although they did lose one player to injury. Is this a significant one?
This is not an offense to this young man, but no, he's a really talented young player, but he's a redshirt freshman, transfer from TCU, good player, Cordell Russell. But there's four guys that are really the top four for them, and he's not in that group. So, Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, Will Shepard, and LeJontay Wester are going to be their four main guys. And so as long as they stay healthy, they'll be all right.
Yeah, and Hunter projected to be a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft, as is Sanders too. So we'll see there. Oh, okay. So now before we go, let's sort of shift over to, the daily beat of you covering the Colorado Buffaloes. I've been in this spot before with different players and coaches and athletes, And there's some unusual circumstances going on right now in that media room that you're dealing with, Brian, which is, Coach Prime, essentially doesn't like the way that his team is being covered by an individual reporter. We've seen some reports that this individual reporter is not going to be allowed to ask questions at different press conferences and things of that nature. We don't see this happen that often. It's been talked a lot about in national media, but I feel like with you sitting in the room, you have a much better understanding as to what's actually going on.
Yeah, and that's a pretty good, summary of it. Is that this columnist from the Denver Post has written a lot of pieces that that Coach Prime has taken as personal attacks, and you can see why if you look at some of the pieces. And he's taken offense to that, and called out the reporter at a recent press conference and said, "Why do you do this?" Just asked him, and the reporter couldn't really answer. And so he's like, "Well, until we figure it out, you can't ask any questions." And so, it's created a different dynamic. You got media people that have jumped all over him, and it's a weird dynamic covering Deion Sanders in a lot of ways. But I get along with him. I feel like I think in a lot of ways he's much like every other coach I've covered, but in a few ways he's not.
Yeah, and I think that's really what needs to get figured out. I think both for Deion and maybe even the media too is just some middle ground, because in the end he's trying to do a job, and the columnists and even you are trying to do a job as well. Usually these things do get sorted out, and I do feel like this has made a lot of attention about something very little that probably can just be handled off the camera. And I think in the end, hopefully that's the way that this works out. Brian, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Have fun tomorrow night. First game of the season. We'll be watching. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you.